Good morning and happy Friday. Dr. Gino Collura here with Dr. Bill Anton with here at CEO Effectiveness, and always so excited and always fun to have these lives on Friday mornings, right? So, you know, to everyone who's watching, Dr. Anton and I, we've been having a discussion, and it's been kind of a theme for this week, this idea of executive burnout, right? When folks, I think, have been burning the candle at both ends, and you get to a point to where balls start dropping, things start slipping, or you don't have that motivation, that inspiration kind of firing you up. So Dr. Anton has some incredible insight in how to recognize it, how to deal with it, and ultimately kind of how to pull ourselves out of it. So Dr. Anton, when we think about executive burnout and being burnout, why does it happen in the first place?
Well, I would say it happens because we're not using all of our brain power. And the ways in which we protect ourselves from the parts of ourselves that we don't know and are afraid to know involve brain circuitry. And those circuits keep the impulses from getting to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the executive center of our brain. When we're using it, we have a sense of inner calm. It has inhibitory influences on lower brain centers. So the feeling of panic, anxiety, the hurried sickness, being rushed,
right,
all of that stuff quiets down. But what many of us do is we develop some circuits that make us feel safe early in our life, and then it's like a one-trick pony. We use that same circuitry, the same thinking processes, the same emotional reactions, and if we succeed, we attribute our success to all of those emotional and cognitive habits, when in fact our success is in spite of those cognitive and emotional habits.
Oh wow, that is profound. So what's a way, so for folks who are watching, this idea, so I feel burned out, I don't want to do whatever the task at hand is anymore, or I just don't have the drive, right? I don't feel that passion, I don't feel that call, that motivation. And a lot of folks say, oh, you're getting ready to experience a midlife crisis, or something to that effect. How do we recognize that it's a temporary state of mind and not something that's going to last in the long term?
Well, because sometimes it is a temporary state of mind, and sometimes it's something that's going to last a lifetime.
Right.
And that depends on the decisions that people make. I think in some ways a midlife crisis is really a wake-up call. It's like a recognition that, why am I doing all this? Like, what's the meaning? Why do I feel like I'm disconnected? Why do I feel like every day is the same? Why am I bored with my engagements with the people around me? Why do I hate going to work? All of that simply means that your frontal lobes are not engaged in your life, and really engagement of your frontal lobes is the same as self-knowledge, but it's sort of like a bypass. You have to undo the circuits that exist,
right,
in order to allow the energy to flow all the way to where it needs to flow.
Absolutely.
And so midlife crisis is sort of like really an opportunity. It's kind of like adolescence. Adolescence is an opportunity to consolidate all of the things you learned up to adolescence. A midlife crisis is like sort of like a second call.
Gotcha.
A second wake-up call. And if you don't heed the call, then you could do a lot of people do a lot of things. Some executives drink excessively.
Sure.
They do all kinds of things to avoid the real task, which is getting to know the parts of themselves that they've ignored for most of their lifetime, because they feel that their success is a result of the accommodations that they created to survive their early life.
So you said something so incredibly profound. So going back to the meaning. So what's the meaning of it, right? When we're having these questions, particularly for folks who may fall into that bucket of a midlife crisis, and we feel burned out, and what's the point? What are some things that folks can do who may be beginning to experience, right, burnout or questioning? What are things that they can do to bring meaning back to the forefront?
Well, I mean, three things come to mind. One, I think you can read some books that are designed to bring you in contact with yourself. So you can develop a cognitive awareness of what's happening. And maybe that would give you a little more faith that the risk are worth the effort,
right?
Because the rewards can be enormous. Not only the rewards for your business life and your company, but the rewards in your personal life and all of your engagements.
Right.
So that's one of the first things you can do. One of the other things you can do, and a dear friend of mine just pointed out to me a study from Harvard that has demonstrated that meditation alone increases gray matter in the brain.
Wow.
Well, gray matter is really what the prefrontal granular cortex is composed of, and so is the cortex in our brain. The more you develop gray matter, the clearer you're thinking, the more inhibitory impulses are on other brain. So I would say meditation is the second thing.
Okay.
And there are some great programs like Headspace that cost virtually nothing. And just 5 minutes a day can begin to chip away at those old circuits that are boring you to death and making you feel like your life doesn't have much meaning. And then the third thing, and again, we've talked about this before, is to make doing the harder thing as a default. And so when you have a choice between doing it in the old way or trying something that may make you a little anxious, that may make you feel a little vulnerable, move in that direction. And so I think those three things could be really helpful.
So that is a really good direction to point, right? So for those of us who are out there, and those of us who are in the C-suite, entrepreneurs, business owners, or in leadership capacities in general, when we're feeling that notion of being burned out, right? Being able to remind ourselves, what's the meaning in the first place, right? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And then some useful tools are to find books, right, that kind of align with getting us out, right, of that frame.
It gives you kind of a cognitive understanding, and there's some great stuff out there.
Okay, fantastic. So finding the right types of books, engaging with meditation, right, and then also those programs that you had mentioned as well. And what was one of the programs?
Like Headspace.
Headspace. Okay, fantastic. So
and doing the harder thing as a default.
Doing the harder thing as a default. If you had to recommend one book for folks who are watching right now that you would say, hey, this is a really good book, I'd recommend you take a look at, what would it be? I know it's hard.
Well, I would say Candace Pert has she actually has an audio book or CD, and she's wonderful to listen to. The title is Your Body is Your Subconscious Mind. Now, Candace Pert is the person who really discovered endorphins. And the prefrontal lobes of the brain have the highest concentration of endorphin receptors of any part of the body. And so she's telling me from really from a cell biologist, pharmacologist point of view, how to change your brain in the direction of engaging the frontal lobes and what the consequences are for you psychologically and physiologically if you continue to rely on the old circuitry.
Wow.
And I can give you, using myself as an example, I got my PhD when I was 26. And I could recall at that time, if I saw 8 people or even 6 people in a row, I would be exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now I feel at the end of the day just as if I just got there.
Right.
And I can see 10 people in a row because it's not taking the same out of me because I've done some recircuiting in my own brain. Right. So I can tell you I'm living proof that it really makes a difference in every aspect of your life.
Well, I think it's something so important, being able to recircuit yourself. And that's a very real thing that all of us have the capacity to do, right? And so, so for those of you who are out there, just know that if you're feeling burned out, it's not an abnormal thing. It happens. Find the meaning, right? Find what it is that you're doing. Why did you start doing it in the first place? Expose yourself to the right resource. Of course, the team here at CEO Effectiveness, we are always here for you. We want to have discussions and conversations with you. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, and interpret burnout as a signal, not as an experience.
Oh, I like that. Interpret as a signal and experience. Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Dr. Anton, always a pleasure having these discussions, sir. And make it a great day and have a great weekend.